Hello, 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 beautiful people, and welcome back to another live experience with Leah C. Murphy. I am excited that you are here with me. For anybody who is with us live, please take advantage of the opportunity to just drop your city in the chat. I want to know who's vibing with us, and I want to make sure that we acknowledge everybody who is here with us now. I also want to acknowledge how rude that was of my of my calendar to alert us in the background that it is time for me to get on live. So if you are listening to this on the replay or you've taken advantage of the opportunity to share this with someone else or it's been shared with you, you can still drop your city in the chat. We would appreciate knowing who this content is being distributed to because we believe that there's a tremendous investment that you're making of your time to be able to be with us. And I want to acknowledge that. And I love that for you, right? That you are on the replay. And I also love it for us because the replay has been doing some amazing things. Let's just make sure we get it clear off the top. Happy Black History Month. Welcome to February. At the time of this recording, we are in our first recording of Black History Month. And for those who are with us live, shout out to all of you who have made the choice to spend your live time this afternoon on this Tuesday with me because we stand for Black History Month. We stand for Black History 365 days a year. We stand for Blackness. We stand for all of those who are melanated across platforms. So we appreciate you joining us here today, and I am really excited for you to be with me live. I had a running joke with a lot of my previous colleagues. We used to treat Black History Month like the whole month was our Super Bowl. And we know for a lot of folks, the Super Bowl is a game that people are going to go watch and very excited about in NFL. And I am absolutely thrilled that we are going to see Bad Bunny perform at the Super Bowl this year. I know this is not the way the usual content kicks off, but shout out to Bad Bunny for performing at the Super Bowl this year and for all of the Bad Bunny stands, all of those who are using their platform to stamp out injustice, to acknowledge that people are being mistreated, and to really call out those who are at the helm of that mistreatment. I absolutely love that. And that is really what Black History Month stands for. So shout out to Bad Bunny and everybody who's excited about Bad Bunny performing in the Super Bowl. We know that there are a lot of folks who are down for that. I will plan to watch halftime. The rest of it I am completely uninterested in this good year of 2026. But we know that lots of people are excited about it. So we want to give folks the opportunity to enjoy that. And I think that where we're going to go today is somewhere that many of us have been navigating in the back of our mind. It's kind of this nagging thought that lots of us are being challenged with as we think about what are we doing in our career in this 2026, navigating what we know to be true based on our lived reality, but then also like reading the headlines and reading other sources of media, and maybe what you're reading in the media and what you're experiencing in your lived experience don't match. So welcome for those who dropped in the chat. It looks like Luce is joining us from LaGrange, Georgia, our regular. Shout out to you, Luce, for joining us. We're so happy that you're here. And I wanted to make sure that we talked about this because I found that this conversation is one that I'm having often with my clients. And as we prepare for the Career and Care Summit that's coming up March 21st, that I've been talking about for a couple of weeks now, and I'm going to keep talking about it because it's probably the thing that I am most passionate about in the day-to-day right now. As we're preparing for this, there are folks who are just feeling like I am in a transition phase. I am in a transition. I am in what we call here at Career Gems for the Journey, a layover. I'm in a career layover. I might be in a rut or I'm navigating some form of transition. And it feels uncomfortable. It feels disorienting. And because it feels disorienting, I want to make sure that I can bring voice to that. So before I get into the topic of today, I want to make sure that we get this done at the top. Next week, when you join me, because I'm not going to say if, when you join me, I am going to be joined by the amazing Tara J. Frank, author of You Before the World. And if you're watching me live, you see that her book is right over my shoulder here. You Are Before the World is her book. It is her second project. She is going to join me live here in this location at this same time next Tuesday, February 10th. So mark your calendars for that in advance. We are going to do a preview of what you can come to expect at the Career and Care Summit, where we're going to do a full fireside chat with Tara. Take advantage of the opportunity to join us on the 10th just to get a taste, just to whet your palate for what Tara is going to bring full force at the Career and Care Summit. I am so thrilled to have her join me live, and also thrilled that she is going to be one of our featured speakers at the Career and Care Summit. It is all working out. The things that need to work out are working out for our good, and I am thrilled about that. So you should be in the room. Get your tickets for the summit today, and then join us next Tuesday just to wet your whistle, to get yourself excited about what you're going to experience in the full day of the Career and Care Summit. So today we're going to talk about career transitions and this idea of, am I starting over and what does that look like? But I want to start by saying something that feels obvious in some lights, but not obvious in others. So sometimes it just means we just need to say what we're thinking. Changing direction in your career does not mean you failed. Getting redirected in your career by forces outside of your control, layoffs, restructuring, companies closing, the economy being bad, does not mean you failed. There are so many high achievers who are navigating transitions in their career that they didn't anticipate, and that navigating that transition is causing them to have signals of failure. And I think a lot of times we've been told, or we may have been conditioned, that any transition, any change that you didn't initiate in your career represents failure. And so many of our high achievers are struggling navigating what is the inevitable based on what we're seeing in the US economy. So I'm going to say it for more plainly. It does not mean that you made wrong choices. It does not mean that you are not valuable. It doesn't mean that you are behind. More often than not, it means that you are navigating a change that is being compelled by forces that are often outside of your control. Now, for people who may jump in the comments and say, well, if you got restructured or if you got laid off, that means that you weren't a high performer. I call BS on that, and I almost cursed. I call BS. I've sat in the highest levels of organizations that are making decisions about restructuring for companies. And I'm here to tell you that those decisions and those broad strategies around restructuring happen years, and I'm saying years, multiple years before the actual restructuring, the layoffs, the downsizing, years before it actually hits the individuals. That's number one. Number two, the individuals that will be impacted by a mass layoff, an organizational restructure, downsize in staffing, whatever the corporate term is that you hear, those people were not factored into the decision that a restructuring had to happen. So there was an upstream decision that was made, and downstream, there are people that are impacted. And all of that in between had nothing to do, oftentimes, with the individual. And I think sometimes we need to just hear that out loud because we've convinced ourselves, or we've said some things, or we've come under a belief system that everything is a failure if we're not growing in our career, if we're not getting promoted, if we're not moving into that next big role. And I think that that is what is causing so much stress, so much angst, so many different people who are very capable, very much deserving of fantastic opportunities and deserving of career growth. But the organization has made a decision, and that decision is not one that you had any control over. So I don't want the results of that decision to then change your perspective on how you see yourself, because that's where it gets dangerous. How you see yourself is critical to you sustaining a career where you are healthy, where you are in the belief that you should be able to grow, that you'll continue to develop, that there's more for you to learn, that new challenges are ahead. That belief system is what I want to protect. And oftentimes, when you're navigating a decision that had nothing to do with you, that's the thing that takes the most damage. Your belief in yourself, your belief in your career development, your belief in your story, because transitions happen. And let's give a little bit of the data as to what transitions are happening right now. There's so many reasons. There's personal transitions that you choose. There are also changes in leadership in a company. There's new priorities that cause these decisions that need to be made. There's shareholder discussions. There's Wall Street and market decisions. There's your own choices that you are ready to make a career transition. So the problem is not that the change is happening. The problem is that we have to learn how to navigate them better because they are more frequent now, and they are often inevitable and outside of our control. Let's give some information, some data. The US economy is stalling. we're seeing white collar layoffs in a number of different sectors. And some of it is driven by AI and AI's impact on the market, right? We can acknowledge that there is a direct impact to artificial intelligence in the workplace. There's also some adjustments happening due to workplace shifts in hiring because now companies and organizations have swung a pendulum post pandemic where they are now cutting a number of the jobs that they brought in during the pandemic. So that's true. Companies are also weathering the storms of tariffs and financial uncertainty due to the current administration. That's the reality. So you have the US economy that is not performing well. You have tariffs that are directly impacting how corporations and organizations are choosing to spend or not to spend. And you also have an overcorrection potentially from pandemic hiring that is causing all of these forces in the job market that you have no control over. So, because of that, many companies are taking an extremely cautious approach to keeping their profits safe. Many companies are choosing the path of capitalism, protection of profits, and that means that they're restructuring or they're making changes to the organization. So, as we see ourselves, we have to make sure that we are decoupling the identity of this is my job, this is my title, this is what I do, these are the companies that I work for, and decouple it in understanding that companies are going to make choices that are in their best interest. I must focus on making choices that are in my best interest, but I also must not let my self reflection or my identity be impacted by a company making choices that have nothing to do with me. So I wanted to make sure that we gave the data because I think it's important to understand that many companies are just flattening middle management. We are in what is being called a no hire, low fire economy. Now, there is a rundown of companies who have made layoffs in the last quarter, right? So whether we're closing out quarter four of 2025 or going into Q1 of 2026. And the list is vast and it crosses industries. And I'm just going to give a couple examples. It's not extensive. You always have the opportunity to do your own research. I just want to make sure that I'm giving you evidence-based examples that help to give context to why transitions are happening in your career right now that you may be experiencing. So UPS has made recent layoffs. Intel has made recent layoffs. HP has made recent layoffs. Verizon, Amazon, Dow, Lufthansa. We've also seen layoffs that are happening in sectors that are tied to food, in Tyson, in drug, in Novo Nordisk, in retail, in Target, in General Motors. You get the message. There is a constant trimming that has been happening for about 4 quarters in the US economy. And last year, the US added slower than 50,000 jobs per month on average. And that is the slowest pace of job growth that we've seen outside of a recession. Okay, so now we understand that all of these forces and factors are playing into the job market that you may be experiencing. That's going to impact your decision as to whether or not you stay in your role longer, stay in your organization longer, or you're willing to make a transition. So when we think about how we can signal from our own lived experience, there's also less consumer spending, right? Because of the tariffs and because of a number of other factors, consumers are experiencing higher costs and inflation. So that means consumer spending is down, and that means companies are not making as much money as they once were. So that is a signal that change is inevitable for most people who are working in white collar or knowledge based roles. So as I think about those knowledge based roles and people who are in white collar jobs, I'm talking about transitions now because that market that we once thought was safe is going to require us to do some rethinking. The market that we thought was safe is going to require us to do rethinking. And I'm telling you this because the job market is tied to the US economy. And as the US economy slows down and moves into the slow lane, oh, I hit the microphone again. As the US economy moves into the slow lane from a growth perspective, that's going to impact hiring. So I'm giving all this context because transitions are inevitable. And I don't want us to be scared. I don't want us to be fearful. I want us to be aware so that we can properly strategize and we can properly plan. And then as we plan and strategize, or we may just need to weather the storm. And you you are the only one that can make the decision as to whether you need a new strategy, a new plan to take immediate action, or you need to be prepared to batten down the hatches and just to weather the storm. So transitions are inevitable. And as we think about weathering the storm, I don't want you to believe that this is a hit to your perceived capability or value in the job market. Because the truth of the matter is that job searches will take longer. I'm seeing more and more people take on fractional role, focus on reducing their spending, focusing on growing their investment portfolio so that they can weather a transition that's going to happen. And I'm saying transitions because that may be demotions. That may be organizations that are scaling down and shifting you into a new role. That may be organizations that are laying off. That may be organizations that are holding on to promotions and freezing promotions for a long period of time. So there are a number of different kinds of transition that a market like this creates. And companies are going to take advantage of the opportunity to take the action that they believe is going to protect their profits, protect their shareholder value. And I think oftentimes when we are experiencing the transition, we are thinking about it as this must be something that is just related to me, related to my performance, related to the team that I'm on. And I'm telling you that there are macro impacts that are happening. And I just want to make sure that we bring that to the table because I'm seeing a lot of folks struggle with the idea of this is only happening to me, or I don't know what I'm going to do, or why am I not seeing the career growth that I once would have believed was well within my grasp 2, 3 years ago. And it's because all of these changes have happened in the last year and change. And now we have to weather the storm that we're in. Now, I hate a lot of the decisions and choices that have put the US economy in the position that it's in now. I don't agree with those choices, but that's not what this discussion is about. This discussion is to make sure that you have the information to know what is working against you, the forces that are outside of your control, and you can build a plan to strategically move forward. I am in the method of let me do the research so that you have the right tools and information so that you can get the outcome that you desire. So now, as we think about getting the outcome you desire and protecting your energy so that you can focus on building your networks, building this crucial group of people to keep yourself aligned to opportunities that may not get posted, to keeping yourself in the know. Because one of the most common fears people have during transition is this idea that I have to start over. I'm starting over at this age. I'm starting over at this level of experience. I'm starting over after all this work that I put in. And there's some grief that goes with that. But the truth is, if you have to start over, you're not starting over from scratch. You're starting over with experience. And that reframe can help you stay in a mindset that allows you to weather the storm. You still have great skills, you still have great competencies, you still have great leadership ability, you may still have judgment and decision making. Everything that you learn goes with you into the next phase, but it does not mean that everything that you learn and everything that you bring to the table is going to be acknowledged in the way that it has been in the past. So one of the biggest mistakes that people make during these transitions is desperation and rushing out of fear. Now, let me be clear. I totally understand the fact that people have responsibilities, obligations, and bills that need to get paid. And that discomfort of an organization making a transition or threatening a transition or signaling a transition, all of that creates real stress and emotions and shift in our hormones that really can impact us. And I think sometimes we just need permission that to remind ourselves that we're human. And organizations that are giving these signals or that are making severe cutbacks, or that even if you don't get cut, the guilt that you may be feeling for staying in the organization while coworkers or people that you connected with and worked with closely did get cut. There's just a lot of weightiness that is happening as people are navigating wherever they are and wherever they sit in the market, especially if you're a job seeker and you've had multiple months or maybe multiple weeks leading into months where you've been waiting to hear back. You may have been ghosted by a recruiter. You may have taken 6 rounds of interviews. I'm hearing from lots of people, 6 rounds of interviews and then still getting a no at the end. And that can be very discouraging. And I think to acknowledge that there are real feelings, to acknowledge that there is a real cost to people as they are making their way through these transitions that they did not initiate. It's something that I feel like more people need to discuss. I think we talked a lot about the stigma of being laid off and how unnecessary and useless that stigma is in the economy that we're navigating today. So I think we all have a part to play in being much more real about the fact that the economy as we know it in the United States has slowed down so tremendously that there's no way that everything connected to the US economy is not going to be impacted. So now that we understand that there's a macro level and there is a cascade of effects that are happening, then we can see how it could directly impact us in our day job, in our office, in our cubicle, in our corner, driving into our parking spot. It gives us a little bit of context that if we are impacted, we can have a strategy and a plan. And if we're not impacted, we can have more empathy and be more considerate to others who are navigating these changes. Now, that is the human thing to do. That is what I want to encourage all of us to do, is to be more empathetic because we understand that people are in very difficult financial positions as a result of things that are out of their control. How much of a brain disconnect are we feeling if it's I've been a great performer, I've delivered for the company, I've met my objective, I even exceeded my targets, but I still got demoted? It can mess with you. If I have secured the new business and I brought in the big contract and we had this amazing deal, but my job was still eliminated. It can happen in this economy. And I think the reminder that it could happen in this economy and that everyone has the same level of risk that they're navigating gives you a little bit of solace to say, I'm not alone in that. It makes me uncomfortable to say, it makes me uncomfortable to acknowledge, but it is the reality that we're seeing. So I think that that's our role, to use these platforms for their highest and best use, to make sure that we're giving voice to the things that many people may be seeing or struggling with. And if we're giving voice to those things and giving people an opportunity to understand that they're not alone, or that they may be able to find community in other people, if we can just be honest. If we can feel like there isn't a shame and stigma to saying that I have a sincere concern about being laid off or about being restructuring from the organization, and or I've already experienced the layoff or a restructure. The benefit of being able to share our lived experience and our understanding is where we reclaim the power as the people who are living in the world today. So I want to encourage us to continue to build our network, to explore options before we're committing. Explore and make sure that we're continuing to always be on the lookout for new opportunities. So career transition can often shake identity. If I'm not in this role, who am I? If I step away, will I lose credibility? If I change directions, will people judge me? What will they say? And these questions are normal. But here's what really matters most. You have to look within yourself and find that area of trust, of your own inner knowing that you trusted yourself to get to this point. You can trust yourself to navigate what's going to happen. And those transitions that are coming or that may be coming require you to give yourself some compassion, you to make sure that you're proactively thinking about what your future could look like. And I want to leave you with this: you're not behind, you're not starting over. Career transitions are recalibrations, and sometimes they're things that are driven by things way outside of our control. And that's why I created the Career and Care Summit, because I think women deserve a place to rethink, reimagine without judgment, without pressure, what their career should look like for them in the future under the circumstances that they have control over. So your next chapter is allowed to look different, and you are allowed to give yourself a lot of grace as we are navigating these career transitions, and we are not allowed oftentimes to voice the friction or the grief or the frustration that comes along with it, because there's this perception of you just have to keep going. It is what it is. And I'm not denying that it is what it is. And I really want to encourage you to keep going. But I know that there are some real feelings and some real identity shifts that go along with that. And part of that is because I've lived through restructuring and been in an organization that is doing the work. I've also been laid off. I've also made transitions in my career, in roles, in companies, in regions, all of those things. So because I know is why I want to share with you, is why I want to give you the gift of acknowledging for you that you are not alone in navigating these transitions, and that there's lots of information that you can get access to if you want to know more about what companies are making what changes and how deep those cuts are, or if you bring it up to the 30,000-foot view and just focus on what's my plan for my transition. How can I bolster and support myself to make sure that my needs are met during that transition? Or how can I show up as empathetic and as considerate to others who may be navigating transitions that are outside of their control? So the Career and Care Summit exists because we all need a place to be able to reimagine the career that we see for ourselves, considering the circumstances and the variables that we are seeing right now. And those circumstances are real and there's no denying them. So I want you to join me in person at the Career and Care Summit on March 21st, 2026 in Philadelphia. We have an exciting enhancement to the Career and Care Summit. We now have a mixer that we have introduced, and we are going to get together on Friday, March 20th. And we're going to do that just so we have an opportunity to informally get together, get to know one another over some food and some drinks so that when we get together on the day of the summit, we're already warmed up. Our pre-summit mixer is what we're calling it. It's Friday, March 20th, and that is in collaboration with our nonprofit partner, the National Black MBA Association of Philadelphia. We are so thrilled to partner with such a phenomenal organization that has been focusing on helping to support the career advancement of professionals, especially Black professionals. So we're announcing that collaboration during Black History Month because we absolutely love the work that they do. They've been phenomenal partners. So come and join us on March 20th at the Belmont Mansion in Philadelphia for the pre-summit mixer. You can find out all the information for the pre-summit mixer and the summit at gemsforthejourney.org directly on our website. You can see the QR code on the screen here. Scan that QR code. It'll give you all the information. You can go directly to tickets and grab your ticket today. You will see some other exciting announcements about scholarships that we're offering for the summit that'll come up on our social media page. You got to be following us on LinkedIn, following us on YouTube, following us on Instagram to see the scholarship opportunities that we're posting. We are going to offer 10 scholarships to join us in person at the Career and Care Summit at no cost to you. But you have to keep an eye on our social media in order to see that. And the goal is to make the Career and Care Summit accessible to all those who could benefit, those who are navigating career transitions, those who are navigating underemployment, and especially we're personally passionate about giving the opportunity to attend to educators, to social workers, to birth workers, and those who really serve the needs of professional women, daycare workers. We want to make sure that we create access to the Career and Care Summit. It's something that my team and I have been personally passionate about. So we're doing that through these 10 scholarship opportunities. If you're interested in the scholarship, you can check out our LinkedIn page and you'll see that post. And then it's just a very, very quick application process. So we know a little bit more information about you. And then we want you to join us in person on March 21st, 2026. So we're excited for what is to come. And we're also looking forward to being able to meet you and connect with you in person. So until then, please continue to make this journey work for you. Make your journey work for you. And I will see you next Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where Tara J. Frank will join us. And we will have an early book tour discussion as just a palate, wet your tongue for what you're going to experience at the Career and Care Summit live in our full fireside chat. So I appreciate you joining me, and I'll see you on the other side.